Iranian security forces have arrested a prominent activist and Nobel Peace Prize winner. Narges Mohammadi was detained at a memorial for a human rights lawyer who died under suspicious circumstances. Several other activists were held in the eastern city of Mashhad. 53-year-old Mohammadi was a celebrated campaigner for democracy and women's rights. She was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2023 while incarcerated at Iran's notorious Evin prison. The Nobel Committee has condemned her arrest as brutal. We can speak now to Gissou. She's the director of the Atlantic Council's Strategic Litigation Project. Good to see you, Gissou. Why would Narges Mohammadi be somebody to upset the powers that be in Tehran?
Well, she's a Nobel Peace Laureate. She has an international profile. She's been in and out of prison. She's actually on medical leave right now. She had been granted furlough since December 2024. And so the authorities are not going to see somebody who has access to global platforms and the international media take this kind of public stance. This was a 7-day memorial ceremony for Khosrow Ali-Kurdi, a human rights lawyer. And it should be noted that human rights lawyers are under increasing attack in Iran, and they're a dwindling group of folks. Many are now in exile. Many of the lawyers that I used to work with more than a decade ago in the country now live outside of Iran because the authorities are targeting them.
The Norwegian Nobel Committee says Mohammadi was arrested in a brutal manner in Iran and must be released immediately. What are the chances of that happening?
Well, she was already on medical release, and really I think it's because there was a lot of global attention on the fact that when she won the Nobel, she was actually in an Iranian prison. So she was unable to go to the ceremony, and her family had to represent her there because she was in prison. And so since then, there's been extraordinary pressure to try to get her released. But at her core, she's an activist. And so she was at this ceremony that then quickly became anti-government in nature. There were a lot of anti-regime slogans that were being repeated at this ceremony. Khosrow Ali-Kurdi, the lawyer who died under very suspicious circumstances and who many suspect was actually killed by the regime, had represented political prisoners. And he is a supporter of Reza Pahlavi, who is the son of the deposed monarch in Iran and is a threat to the regime. So I think her presence there, the presence of many activists there, all of whom were talking to the crowd and where it became an anti-government event, obviously is going to make the regime want to carry out these arrests. And they did so in a very violent manner, and all these individuals must be released.
Was there anything in recent months, given that context, that gave a clue that an arrest might be imminent or the authorities would be stiffening their attitude toward dissent?
Yeah. So one thing to note is that after the country of Israel launched, a military attack on Iran, there was a very quick response by the Iranian authorities once that so-called 12-day war was over. And what they went about doing was immediately arresting individuals in civil society and anyone that they perceive to be a threat to their rule. The country has been dealing with very broad mass disobedience in response to these draconian laws in the country. Really, it's been going on for more than a decade, but it has amplified since September 2022. So all the signs are there. There is continuing unrest in the country. A lot of recent global media profiles of Iran are sort of portraying things as if restrictions have loosened or somehow things are approaching a kind of normalcy, but that's not really the case. A lot of the repression is now targeted at online actors, is done through technological surveillance. And so this really isn't a surprise at all that they violently cracked down on this ceremony.
Yeah, it's worth underlining. Iran has been attacked by Israel, as you say, and the United States recently. Their policy toward human rights has long been criticised. But as to that trajectory that you talk a little about, has anything much changed in the last years or the last 10 years? Is the regime under any real sort of pressure to change the way it treats critical voices?
They're under a lot of pressure because what has happened is that there is no longer fear among people who are openly expressing their dissent. So decades ago, you would, of course, continue to see dissent and people who would maybe in hushed tones and in closed rooms would say how they oppose this regime. But now you see it on the streets. You see it online. That fear has gone away, and that is a bit of what we saw today of all these supporters for Khosrow Ali Kurdi. They understand that this man died under suspicious circumstances, that most likely the regime had a hand in it. And why are they doing that? Only because he is representing people in politically sensitive cases, including some of those who protested in the last robust round of protests, the Woman Life Freedom Movement.
Gissou, Director of the Atlantic Council Strategic Litigation Project. It's been great to have you on. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.